the question I have for perhaps the panel is that how true was the Singapore conversation in reflection of the citizens' view, especially when the 12 perspective and the 5 shared values has never mentioned anything about our concerns regarding equal rights for the LGBT community?
The way we respond collectively actually says more about our character as a nation than what we say in panels or in discussions. And this is where sometimes I feel a bit worried, because there are signs that there are a minority of people who may react in ways that we feel is not part of our values. Xenophobic behavior, behavior that looks down on the marginalized groups, that want to keep them at the borders of society, at the fringes of society, like the poor, the elderly. And I think this is something that we should stand up clearly and have clear position on. And if all of us can play our part, even individually or even in groups, together, people together as a civic society, and not to rely on the government to provide the solutions all the time. We can give you the policies, we can give you the funding, give you the direction and the support, but it is for the civic society to step forward and take ownership of this, and then that will be a new social compact.
Speaking of this idea of marginalized groups, I want to bring in the next question. The lady in black had a question.
So with 21,000 people joining in Pink Dot this year, June, so the question I have for perhaps the panel is that how true was the Singapore conversation in reflection of the citizens' view, especially when the 12 perspective and the 5 shared values has never mentioned anything about our concerns regarding equal rights for the LGBT community?
Anyone in particular you'd like to respond?
Perhaps MP Irene Ng?
Well, our society is getting more and more diverse. We accept that, and we listen to the voices on the ground. And I have many good friends who are gays, and I love them. So it's personally, I have no problems with gays at all. But from the society's point of view, there's a conservative faction. So as a government in charge, they have to listen to the voices of everyone and then move in the direction that the majority wants, as in most of our policies. Just like on foreigners, some of us have very strong views against it, some of us have very strong views for it. So the government has to make a decision based on what they feel is the majority view. And that's the role of the government.
Bertha, Gerald, I want to bring you in on this. Gerald, let me start with you.
I think what is very important is that people of both persuasions, of different persuasions, should feel free to step forward and speak up. And I think that's something that I feel very gratified seeing this year and in the recent years, of many Singaporeans literally grabbing the microphone and speaking out what their honestly held views are. And I think it's important that all views are heard, and that even those who may have been silent in the past should feel free to speak up and speak forward with their honestly held views, because I think that is where we can take our society forward when people step forward.
Bertha?
I want to give a different point of view regarding the haze. I think too often we're very navel-gazing people. We just look at our belly button. So far what we've discussed is very internal, but I think the haze brought home to us the fact that we are a very, very small country, and that, just to get our big neighbors to do something, we have to go and find a lot of friends and get together and force them to do something. And I think in our discussions going forward, sometimes you have to take into account this geopolitical fact that we are not on our own, so to speak, that there are many other things that will bother us, and before we start talking about different groups' rights and the things that affect our country internally. So that's what I thought the haze brought home to me. Yeah.
Well, you see, that's what I like, because the haze and the white paper on population and all that, it's not just about Singaporeans speaking out. It's about getting more and more Singaporeans to come together, work across our differences and collaborate. I think that's the thing, because we are products of a culture of hierarchy. And that's why anything we complain, we go to an MP. If not, we go to an NMP. If not, we go to opposition party. We don't turn around and we say, hey, can we work together? There was a group of parents, autistic children, and I think they went to MOE, and I think MOE was slow in responding. But as a last resort, they started to work together. Yeah, but why is that the last resort? You can go to the MP, go to the NMP, go to all opposition party and all that, but concurrently, where is the civil society, people sector action? And so that's why in Singapore, I want to glimpse and see a glimmer of that, because if that happens, then there can be people power, so to speak. So it's not just civic society, but I'm talking about civil society. So, you know, GLBT and all that, how to work across differences. Don't just GLBT, but do you work with, how to work with straight people, how to work with other people, and be inclusive. So until we reach that point where we can be inclusive and learn to negotiate among ourselves, our diversity and differences, we can't move from words to action.